Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a director, and he has a fun movie out right now on AMC Plus as well as Shudder, and it's called Skeleton in the Closet. I have Asif Akbar. Asif, welcome to the Horror Room.
Hey Travis, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. Now, tell us a little bit about Skeleton in the Closet.
Skeletons in the Closet was a film that I had the pleasure of directing a couple of years ago. We shot the film in I think it was like March of 2022, and here we are, and this time in 2024, it just released on Shudder and AMC Plus, along with different foreign territories around the world, theatrically as well. It had a really, fun and great cast, and we shot it here on location in Las Vegas, and it's a mixture of kind of like a family drama with a paranormal ghost story. Something that I think families can watch. And it's not like all gory and not like the typical horror film nowadays that you would see on Shudder. It's a little different, but it had a mix of kind of different subgenres, into this paranormal story, which I thought was interesting, and the audience is reacting very interestingly. And a lot of my style in filmmaking is to capture the realism with characters and the situations, and even with dialogue. It's something that I believe most people can relate to with most of the characters in those stories, whether it's like a dysfunctional brother, or like you're dealing with your significant other, as you're dealing with challenges and overcoming them. And so it was very interesting. As we were shooting, there were a lot of things that were not obviously going as planned, and there were some challenges that came up that we had to face and change the script on the spot, and get the movie made. And so it's been a good journey with it, so I'm just glad it's out to the audience now.
You put together an amazing ensemble for this movie. I mean, you have Academy Award winner Terrence Howard, Cuba Gooding Jr. is in it. I mean, there's a whole array. I can't even think. I think Mary. I can't think of her last name, but there's a huge cast in this movie.
Sally Kirkland and Udo
Sally
Kier
Kirkland.
as well.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's an
and then
amazing.
we had Clifton Powell.
Clifton Powell's in it.
Fantastic actor, yeah.
So how were you able to get this amazing cast together for your project?
Well, this project's been actually in the works for a while, before we got to really make it. I think, probably like 8-9 years. It's been something that my producing partner on it, Al Bravo, has been working on, and I've been kind of off and on it. And then it just, happened where, I ended up directing it. But, we're putting a lot of other projects together, and every film and every project is all about the right timing. You can be working on one film that you think is going, and you're working on, and all of a sudden, something happens, and, miraculously another film that you didn't even think about moves forward. So, it was one of those things where we were in between a lot of different projects, and the casting, Terrence was, I think, the first one that became interested in the concept and the script and project. So once he came on board, other things kind of started falling together. The rest of the cast, I mean, some of it was very last minute casting as well. I remember, Cuba Gooding Jr. was one of the later, very last minute castings, along with even the female lead, Valerie. She was basically cast like the day before we started production. There were some recastings and things that happened, like some of the challenges I was talking about, that led us to reshuffle a lot of things with the film. So there were definitely like a lot of uh, on the spot decision making with like location changes, or different cast availabilities. The production having to um, you know basically um, sometimes like we had to like redo the script because we got on location, and the set was not what we thought, because we were shooting outdoors, and because of the weather, things had changed, and then other locations may have fell apart last there. So there was a lot of like weird, maybe, I mean, it was one of those curses, like every time you make a horror movie, right, you hear these things like
Yes.
things happen. And so there were a lot of weird things that happened that made us compromise certain things. But then, some things worked out better than we expected. Some things, wasn't as we had planned. But that happens with, most films that the audience really doesn't, know about. I mean, there's a lot of things behind doors when we make a movie. They're kind of behind the scenes type of trivial stuffs. But this one was very interesting. I can say, like, I can just go on for days with it. But it was cool. It was a cool experience.
And one of the things you said too that makes this a little different from other horror movies, you definitely spend a lot of time with character development and and allowing the audience to get to know the characters, what they were feeling, their backstories, and some of that might be because of the actors and actresses involved. I mean, they did a great job, but as a writer, I mean, I could definitely tell that you thought that character development was an important thing that you wanted the audience to see.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things I was saying earlier, my style as a director is to keep in touch with reality and make it feel realistic. The realism of the characters and the situation of the story, something that we can all somehow connect with. And sometimes it may feel unusual in certain genre films to go in depth into details with the character developments and relationships and the backstories. Sometimes, you may have to put in an extra additional, one or two characters that may be an addition to some sort of a subplot, but overall it helps with developing the main characters and their arcs and their relationships and reasonings for certain things that we can all relate to, that we
Hmm.
have in our everyday lives with different relationships and situations. So I try to include as much as I can. Like, for instance, in Skeletons in the Closet, there were a lot of characters that intertwined into creating like a domino effect of having a hand in what the final outcome happened to be. And even like Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, I mean, some people might say, oh, he felt out of place, or he wasn't, he was just an added character. And I've seen some of the reviews and things, so I'm just saying, straightforward, like, some people might look at it that way, but then others might look at it like, oh, you know what, I have a brother like that, and my brother got me involved in this. And so if you really look in depth of the relationships of these characters onto the stories and how they intertwine and create that domino effect, I mean, Cuba was the whole reason, a lot of these things unfolded throughout the stories. And there's a lot of inserted message in all the different scenes and the characters. So it's something that I think, like you're saying, there are details and in-depth character developments and characters in there that go beyond the traditional I guess, horror film or
Hmm.
genre film, and I do that even with my action films. And I've been blessed to be able to have made all genres in my career. So I do like horror because it's unique. You can push the boundaries. You can mix different genres into it without really, disrupting that formula. You know what I mean? But it's a hit or miss. I mean, I know some hardcore horror film
Yeah.
fans may, want, the traditional, but it's one of those things where, like we're talking about, we were able to get a great cast together and to try something new. And that's what's, great about independent filmmaking, is that we're able to experiment and try something new um, for the audience that we usually don't get the chance to do on the bigger studio films. So I think it was a lot of fun getting it made and getting it out there. Now some people will love it or hate it.
Now, something else I wanted to bring up that you brought up too. I looked at your catalog of movies that you've made. You've made everything from thrillers to action to horror. Now, most filmmakers they usually stick with one genre. How are you able to jump from action to horror? Is that a challenge, or is that something that just comes natural for you?
For me, it's something I've always kind of uh, prepared myself for to, I guess, not get pigeonholed, and that's
Yes.
something that um, could have happened to me. I've made a documentary, I think what, like 12 years ago once, and people started comparing me to being like the next Michael Moore. And I'm like, hold on a second, I don't want to just make documentaries. I want to make different movies. And I grew up watching different genres of, sci-fi, action, the dramas, well, you name it, and different international films. And it's one thing I always say to people now, and I preach that, we're basically working in a global film industry right now. We, work with people from all over the world. We go different places all around the world. We shoot, with different intercultural,
Yeah.
international stories. And every story they follow a certain formula. And for me, growing up in this industry and kind of developing myself into being versatile and being able to, I guess, be able to tell the stories that I loved growing up watching for others. And I always told myself I don't want to get pigeonholed. If I see for 1 second that I am boxing myself in, that I'm
Yeah.
just going to go and do something I've never done before and try it out. So like every film I try to push the boundaries and doing something I haven't done before, so that ended up um, taking me on that route where I was able to every project do something new, try something new. If I wanted to make a sci-fi film, I went and wrote a sci-fi film and pushed that one forward. If I, next one, I said, I did a sci-fi already. Let me try doing just action or just horror again. And then sometimes there's, opportunities that come out of nowhere in this crazy business of ours where I kind of mentioned it earlier where I'm working on one film and all of a sudden another film, because something happens, just ends up happening. And it's gotten to be crazy where now we're in the age of the digital streaming world where
Yeah.
content is king. And so I've been blessed to be able to make a lot of content in a short amount of time, especially during the pandemic. It's like been kind of like a weird, strange situation in the industries to where with the indies, like I was saying before, we have that opportunity to experiment but at the same time have an audience. And so it doesn't matter if the audience is split one way or the other. There's always going to be that need for content to feed that audience. So right now I'm a working director and filmmaker, and I'm just blessed to be able to have the opportunity and to tell these different stories. And most people, I would say, to answer your question, is like I think a lot of people choose to stick with a certain genre or a certain style because maybe they don't want to go outside that box. But for
Yeah.
me, I'm that filmmaker that wants to always explore and push the boundaries and think outside the box for the next one.
Now, as an indie filmmaker, are you like sometimes? I mean, you've worked with, I mean, Mickey Rourke. I mean, Michael Jai White. I mean, are you like, oh shit? Are you a little starstruck, or are you a little like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. This is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, a part of you always, I mean, and I've seen even, the legendary actors of the top of them all. I mean, they've always, you know, been inspired. We all get inspired by people, especially these legendary, iconic actors that we grew up watching and seeing them being our heroes throughout lives, and then finally getting the opportunity to work with them is definitely a surreal moment. But you just have to live in the moment, take it all in, and I'm like a sponge. I try to absorb. I mean, that's like once in a lifetime opportunity to work with a Mickey Rourke or a Mel Gibson, and um, we learn from each other. At the same time, we have to respect each other for who we are. They respect me as their director. I respect them as who they are. And that's the great thing about what we do. When we all work together to make a film, we're all a team, and it's very surreal. But at the same time, it's like you look at them just like another, co-creator and partner in this mission that we have to tell this story. And so it's very, I would say, it's one of those things where it's like once you're there, once you've done it enough times, where now I've worked with so many legendary actors that I've been blessed to be able to share the room with and the mind with, to be able to create these things, that it just almost becomes um, like a tool that helps you grow. And every time I do a movie now, like it's like, I'm able to take those tools that I've gathered from the last movie and bring and apply it to the new one, and then learn more tools along the way. So it's something that I think all filmmakers should have the opportunity to do, is to work with the senior artists and the experience that they bring, and just use those as tools. That's how I look at it. Is like,
Yeah.
like every film I've done, I've learned something new on every set, every day, from every actor, whether they are the Mickey Rourke's or even a day player that comes in that's a rookie actor. By working with them, directing them, teaching them, learning from them, you're always gathering experience. And what we do as directors, and even for actors, our experience in life are our tools to create what we do. So for me, that's just, I look at it like working with the Mickey Rourke is just like working with anyone else.
Now, you talked about growing. Some filmmakers have said, indie filmmakers have said, I don't need to grow. I don't need to expand. My audience is expecting this out of me in every film. So I'm going to give them literally the same thing in every film. Do you think growing, even though if your audience expects, certain type of movie out of you or
Mhm.
project out of you, don't you still have to grow though
Of
and
course,
expand and
you have
expand?
to grow. You have to be able to adapt and grow into the current times. Even as filmmakers, we have to be able to adapt with the current times and the technology and the situation of the market. There was a time when we made movies only for theaters and the studios, and then now with the digital age, and then the streamers and different platforms are giving more people opportunities. And if we don't grow with the times and the technology and the market, the business, then you're just going to be left behind. Even with the actors, if you look at all the great actors, they have to change within age, and play those age appropriate characters and change up their um, styles with time. Same thing with filmmakers. I think we need to always educate ourselves, with the technicalities to the practicals, and even the people, the work environments change with time. The films look different from 10 years ago to now to 20, 30, 40 years ago, 100 years ago. So if we don't grow, then we're just going to be left in the past,
Yeah.
and you got to sometimes think ahead of the future and be advanced, like some of the innovating directors that I'm inspired by, or like the James Cameron, Spielbergs, Lucas's, Zemeckis's, even as far back as Charlie Chaplin. These were innovators that thought ahead, and they grew into that, and created a path for other filmmakers to grow using their tools. So um, if any filmmaker says they don't want to grow, then their career may just be short. That's all I can say. But they might have a fan base. There are people that still have a VHS fan base, where VHS sells, like in the Philippines and stuff. But hey, all the power to them. At least if that keeps them happy and sustains them doing what they want to do for that audience, then you know, by all means.
Yeah, like I love. So outside of horror, I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. And if you watch his, first movie, Reservoir Dogs, and you can see over time he grows as a filmmaker. Just the way he shoots, the script, the ideas, everything. It's just it gets better over time. And if Quentin Tarantino used the same style of shooting and the same script writing and everything from Reservoir Dogs for the God knows how many movies he's up to now, I don't think I would be a Tarantino fan. I think I would enjoy that for one or two movies, and then once I got to the third one, I'd be like, okay, this is the same shit
Mhm.
I've seen before.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right, and it's like he grew with time. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, yes, we all have some of our, you know, um, I guess, signature, styles implanted into all the movies we make, one way or another. But overall, like technically, even with the actors, even with the like scripts, they do evolve with you know the timing of the era, or the type of story he's trying to tell, whether he's trying to make it more comedic or more serious. There's always a growth in the style of filmmaking we have to approach with. Otherwise, like you said, it's going to be like watching the same movie over
Over
and
and over.
over by the same filmmakers. But for me, like the most important thing is to be able to push myself to learn in the process of doing something new or more challenging that I haven't done before, and things kind of fall into place of evolving with it, with myself. Like I evolve myself by challenging myself into doing something that I feel like um, I may not be able to do, to be honest, and things that people might look at and say, oh, that's too hard, or no, you won't be able to do it. That inspires me to push myself to try to do it. And if I, can do it, great, then I'm next, moving up to the next level. Perfect example, even when I went and worked with Mel Gibson, I finished my last film, MR9, which was with Frank Grillo, Michael J. White, and then all of a sudden, I something told me, I want to go work with Mel Gibson. I mean, who doesn't? I've always wanted to, and I had the perfect script for it, and timing and everything worked out where I went for it, and people told me, hey, it's not going to happen. But yeah, I said, you know what? Not like, you know, let's try. And that's all you got to do a lot of times is believe in yourself, have the confidence, after a certain amount of time, once you've done it, to be able to want, you know, to challenge yourself where it's like, you never know. You have nothing to lose. Why not? So I went for it, got Mel Gibson, rest is history with Boneyard. So um, I'm like, my worst critic, and at the same time, my, biggest cheerleader. You have to be in this business,
Yeah.
whether you're an actor, director, whatever artist you are. You have to believe in yourself and have the confidence, and at the same time be humble about it. But you have to believe in what you want, in this film business. So for me, it's like I want to just keep growing, and some people may not want to, and they don't grow.
I totally agree. I mean, even with me with my YouTube channel, I'm approaching 1 year.
Oh,
I hope by the
congratulations! It's awesome.
thank you. I hope by the end of next year, in some way, my YouTube channel looks different for the positive. I hope in some way, because if next year ends and it looks exactly the same, that means I'm not growing.
Right?
You know?
No, exactly, exactly.
So
Yeah. No, it's
now,
it's great that you think that way because you are gonna grow. That's why you're approaching a year, and you're gonna keep going, man.
yep. And by the way, everyone who's watching, uh, March, which would be 1 year, start season two. It is going to be fucking amazing. I got some great ideas going to be popping
Oh
up.
yeah.
Now, okay, now you're always coming up with fresh new ideas for stories and scripts. Have you ever thought about jumping onto a story that's already been done or doing a reboot?
Yeah, like when I did MR9, that was an adaptation of a book series, and there's been a film done back in 1974 with that character, and that was kind of like a reboot type of a, not a remake, but like more of like a reboot of this franchise, which was a lot of fun. And again, that's I would love to do that with other classics. Some classics, they say it's left, it's better left alone, which I agree with. But then there are some which would just be fun nowadays. I think it's just free for all on just making your own version of making your own version of Batman and Superman and all these other films we grew up watching. They're getting rebooted, and some are good. I think, in my opinion, I think, it's always again like evolving with time, growing, and having different versions for the different generations and audiences. I'm not opposed to it, but um, for me personally, I think, there are definitely some movies out there that I think would be great. Um, and a lot of fun for me to make, and to bring to the audiences. And again, there will always be haters. There will always be some that you know aren't with it, but you have a choice nowadays. That's the thing, is I tell people, I mean, you have so much choices, so many choices to watch whatever you want with all these different channels and platforms. If you don't like something, you don't like it, move on to the next thing, turn it off, change the channel. Just, but there are people that there's an audience for everything, really. I mean,
Exactly.
and that's the sad truth. In a way, it's kind of funny, but there's literally an audience for everything, like everything, good, bad, you can think of, right? So um yeah, I just we keep making movies for the people that want to watch them, I guess.
What's the iconic horror movie you would reboot?
Oh wow, iconic horror movie that I would like to reboot. That if I had the chance, I would just want to make a really nice, fun one version of it. Would be probably Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just you know, there's been so many versions of
They've
it.
been
I think I
yeah.
I would have another interesting take on it, which would be rooted with the original, but it would just be cool to see what I can come up with there.
I have said many times, like, so I've asked them, like, what movie would they wish was they would stop making movies of, and a majority of them say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I kind of say the same thing because that movie has been rebooted and created so many times, and majority of them have not been good.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I want to do it.
yeah. So I would love. I kind of wouldn't, but I would love to see someone do it right because I mean the original one's great. The second one I enjoyed, but then a whole bunch of bad ones, and then you get to the 2003 reboot, which I enjoyed.
I enjoyed that too. I actually like that. I
Yeah.
actually also like the one that had, I don't know if you remember, it wasn't the second one. It may have been the third or fourth. It was the one with Matthew McConaughey, Renee
Oh,
Zellweger.
stop it! That's Next Generation. Stop it! That movie's awful. Are you serious?
That was the Next Generation. I actually thought it was cheeky, nice, fun and cheeky. Like, yeah, it wasn't as great as the original or even the 2003 one. I thought was really good, right on point. And I actually know Andrew, the guy that played Leatherface in those movies in the 2003 reboots ones. He's a good friend, but like I thought that one had the right tone for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one, the Leatherface one, I think that was the one, right? Or Next Generation. Was it Next Generation or Leatherface? The one with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey.
That's Next Generation.
Next Generation, right? So that one to me was just like a fun one. It was like they had fun with it. You can tell. It was a little off track, but I just remember. I guess maybe it's just nostalgic to me, but I just remember watching that as a kid. Even you know what I mean? Like my parents didn't really restrict me to watching horror movies when I was a child. Like, as early as I remember, like I was watching The Exorcist when I was 5 years old. And
Yeah, I'm saying
I
that,
watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and like from there I was on a kick of like watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was one of the films where. The Next Generation. I remember watching it with a bunch of friends at this birthday party, and it was like everyone was like it was eventful. So I watched that again, I think, a few years back, and it was like one of those nostalgic moments where I'm like, you know what, this one's actually not as bad as people say, and it's actually better than some of these remakes, which even the recent one that Netflix made I thought was just completely off track. It could have been any other slasher movie other than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know what I mean?
Right. See, Next Generation. I saw that as an adult. I'll say the adult. I was like 18, 19. And I didn't even know it even existed. I was at the video store one day, and I was just running through the horror section, and I said, Texas Chainsaw Next Generation. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that there was a fourth Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Yeah.
And I just randomly saw it. And I picked it up and ran it, and I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?" I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?" And like for the longest time, I ranked that one as the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is not the worst. Listen, there's been some other ones out there now that have knocked that one off of the ranking. But like it's just that is just one. I remember even seeing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, yeah, I think I barely watched it, like pieces. I think of it. Yeah.
I want to say it came out in like 2010. I want to say it came out like 2010. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, I think I did see that one. Yeah, that was awful too. Yeah,
that's the one where it had a good premise. It had a great premise where it was following the original one, and like a distant relative, she comes in and she inherits a house. But here's the crazy fucking thing about the movie. It didn't make any sense because I think Leatherface was like 60 years old, and she was supposed to be his sister. And she was in her 20s. And I'm like, and she was a baby in 1975 when this shit happens. So how the fuck is she in her 20s? So
yeah.
So let's take that part out of it. But it had, the first half of the movie wasn't bad. But the second half of the movie just completely ruined it because so you have this killer who is killing people, this first innocent people, this first half of the movie. And then all of a sudden you're going to switch it to he's a fucking hero. How can you do that?
Yeah,
it's like
two different. Weird. People. It was very weird, and I don't know, what they were thinking on it. Maybe they were trying to, do something new with the character, but it was, to me, I remember watching that now that you're telling me, and yeah, the ending, I was just like, what the hell was this?
It seemed like two different directors and writers came in, like one for the first half and one for the second, and they didn't
Yeah.
see what the other person wrote.
Well, and
Like
that happens sometimes, but I mean, come on, with the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, I mean, that's where it's like, why mess with those things, unless you do it right. But one thing I can say about going back to the Next Generation version of it, that one did at least, it created some stars. If you look at Renee Zellweger, Matthew McConaughey, I think there was someone else in there that, ended up having bigger careers, obviously, but I think that was experimental as well for that time. Like it had a lot of comedy elements to it and over the topness, and again, I think it was something they were trying out because it was the, I think, early '90s version of it.
yeah,
But hey, I mean, I still think it was better than like 3D, for example, or even, I
for
mean,
me it was bad.
the new one that Netflix did was, I mean,
I
it had
fucking
some
hated that
nice,
movie.
interesting kills in it, but it's like, come on, that didn't even feel
I
like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I fucking hate it. I agree. But even the one they made before that one, I don't know if you've seen that one. It was called. I want to say that one was called Letterface,
Oh,
where
yes, yeah, no, that one I even forgot about. It was that bad, I think.
it was that bad. Like, but I mean, even in Next Generation, Matthew McConaughey's fucking character was amazing. Like Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey was
and
stalk fucking crazy in it.
there were some really creepy moments in Next Generation. I remember even when they
Yeah,
revealed the family and things, it was just creepy. That's what it was more. It was like comedic but creepy and like messed up, like to an extreme. I think that's what like stuck with me when I was little, and then seeing those actors grow, into the careers they've had. I think that's what's special about the Next Generation, really.
and I agree. The formula, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre formula was there for that movie. And then, like for the last fucking three, like the formula was complete. But I mean, even the one on Netflix, like he's an orphan. Like I didn't even know where the fuck that like
Yeah,
that wasn't even part of the like he's an orphan staying with this lady who like with a whole bunch of other kids. Like
yeah,
Leatherface didn't fucking wasn't around other kids.
right.
So at this point you're just making up shit.
Yeah. No, and like you said, that formula is what worked for it. Is like even the 2003 remake, it was that more of like, going out into the unknown where, like even the Hills of Eyes followed that formula and was successful where, you got these travelers who are out in the, west or, the, Texas countryside in an
Yeah.
unknown territory, and they're lost or stuck in this small little town where this family of killers and Leatherfaces and this creepy
Car
little
breaks
house,
down.
right,
Yeah.
that they come across. And that's like the formula and the fear factor of it all, which I think some of these versions just completely missed. And like we were saying, the Next Generation followed that formula too. They were out in the middle of nowhere where people are getting stranded, lost, and now they're coming across Leatherface. Now that's scary, not like going and uh, finding out Leatherface is your brother and then he's trying to
Yeah.
kill your friends and then all of a sudden he's saving you. It's like,
Like what
yeah,
the fuck?
that just doesn't work.
Because I mean the fear is that like that everybody should have breaking down in the middle of fucking nowhere
Right.
and there's a
Yeah.
crazy and some crazy motherfuckers around. Like that is something that can happen to anybody. It really
That's
can. It can
already
happen to
50% of it. Yeah, that's why those
yes,
movies do so well. Like even Jeepers Creepers,
yes.
all these movies. I mean, they that follow that formula. I mean, I love those kinds of movies.
Hmm.
Even like when you look at a like weird, really messed up movie is the Human Centipede.
Yes.
Almost the same formula. Like this crazy doctor that's kidnapping people, and because they're coming across his house in the middle of nowhere, was they're
Being
lost.
stranded.
yeah, you get stranded, and now next thing you know, you're a victim of his experiment. You know, this mad doctor, and it's creepy and scary just to think about it. So yeah, they just need to stick to that formula. And so if I made a Texas Chainsaw, I would definitely stick to that formula. And that's what I was talking about. Is like kind of being close to the roots of the original, but just make a modern day version of it, maybe
Yeah.
and uh, lose um, some of like the things that didn't work along the way, and go back to the original roots, but modern day. See how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Predator, great movies, but for the last couple whatever they had just not they've been
Well,
missing the
Prey
part.
wasn't too bad.
I
The
like
one
Prey. Yeah,
that was definitely good. So hopefully they'll keep that formula going. I think they're on to
correct.
something there.
Yeah, but before Prey, the last couple Predators have not been good. I did
No,
like the one where Adrian Brody. That was okay, but they've been missing the mark on the Predator for a while
yeah,
now.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Okay, all right, my friend. So where can everyone find you?
Um, I have Facebook, Instagram. I'm accessible there. I have a lot of updates coming up on my IMDb with all the different projects. Also, there's updates on different platforms. Like if you go to Roku or any of these other, Amazon, type in my name, Asif Akbar, and my movies from the past will pop up. And I have quite a few films releasing again this year. Along with Skeletons in the Closet, I had another horror film that's been releasing in foreign territories. It's going to be releasing domestically here in North America soon as well. It's called The Curse of the Clown Motel. Something we shot even before, Skeletons. So that's coming out around this time. And then I have MR9, Do or Die. That one's coming out April 23rd, I heard, which will be available all over. It had a theatrical release, earlier, about 6, 7 months ago, and now it's going to be available, in the masses everywhere. So I'm kind of excited about those, and I'm currently in post production with Boneyard, the film I did with Mel Gibson and 50 Cent for Lionsgate. So I'm very excited and proud of that film, and we're going to be delivering that soon. So that should be releasing later this year as well. So it's been a very busy and exciting, year so far.
Yes, you are busy, man. You're busy. Listen, see if anytime you want to come on and promote anything, man, please feel free to hit me up. I would love to have you back on.
Well, thank you, Travis. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to more.
Definitely. Everybody, listen, get over to Shutter or AMC Plus and check out Skeletons in the Closet. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.